everyone. Welcome back to the Relai Bitcoin podcast. Today I have a very special guest who is really hot on social media right now. It's crazy what's going on. Dennis Porter, how are you?
Hey, Julian, great to be here, and thank you for having me on. Looking forward to the conversation.
That's awesome, man. I was really keen to talk to you because we are both on tomorrow, actually, here in Switzerland. So I will be at this group gathering of parliament members. I think there will be like 15 parliament members of the Swiss government, basically, talking about Bitcoin. They have this working group because there are like 2 politicians or 3 in Switzerland that are really leading the pack when it comes to Bitcoin, and they're organizing this working group. So they are coming together to talk about Bitcoin. I was there last year or the year before. It was very good, but not much happened, unfortunately. But now they were sensible on the topic, at least, and now we will have you on as well. So I will be there in person. You will be there remotely. I just really wanted to talk to you about what's going on in terms of nation-state adoption, politicians. I mean, you have been in Bitcoin for a long time, but I feel like the last couple of months you were so involved in talking to politicians, governments, nation-states around the world about Bitcoin adoption. You know, what has changed in the last couple of months?
Yeah, I mean, certainly. I think that a lot has changed. You know, the outcome of the election has played a major role in people's minds. Also, additionally, I believe that the price of Bitcoin has certainly played a role. You know, whenever the price of Bitcoin goes up, we see a very strong amount of interest grow for Bitcoin policy. And, you know, at Satoshi Action, we are so well positioned to help lawmakers not only to introduce this type of legislation, but also to pass it into law. We have been working here in the U.S. at the state level for 3+ years now. Even before Satoshi Action existed, I've been working with state lawmakers and federal lawmakers on policy and on education. But in the last, 2 legislative cycles at Satoshi Action, we have been able to introduce 30+ bills at the state level. We've been able to do that in over 20 states. And we have been able to pass 4 of those bills into law. And they range from everything from the right to mine, the right to self-custody, the right to run a node, the right to peer-to-peer transactions. And because of that work, and combined with where we are with the price of Bitcoin and a lot of pro-Bitcoin people going into Congress, the Overton window has shifted, and we're starting to see lawmakers all across the world, in the U.S. and outside the U.S., reach out to us. Before all of this, we would have to do all the outreach to talk to lawmakers to get them interested in this technology. But now they're finally giving us a ring and sliding into our DMs to talk about Bitcoin, which is an exciting thing.
Super. Like, are they actually sliding into DMs?
Yeah. Yes. I had legitimately a new state senator. He said, I've been a Bitcoiner since 2017. I just got elected to be a state senator, and I want strategic Bitcoin reserve legislation to be the very first bill that I introduce.
Wow. Well, that's what I was going to ask. Like, what is the motivator? Why are some of these lawmakers and politicians, why are they all of a sudden interested? I mean, for example, for Trump, it probably had a positive effect that he has won the 10 to 15% of Bitcoin owners in the US as voters, right? So that I could imagine that might have been like one of the motivators why he was so talking so openly about Bitcoin. But in general, what are the motivating factor?
It's votes and it's money. You know, you have a lot of new voters that are Bitcoiners, that are single issue voters. You have people, even in the crypto space too, they'll vote. They're going to be interested in voting for Bitcoin. You know, I think 1 in 7 Americans owns some type of digital asset, the vast majority of that being Bitcoin. And so this new voter block is growing. It's getting bigger. It's getting stronger, and it's getting more well capitalized because Bitcoin is always going up, right? So Bitcoiners have a lot more money. The crypto space has a lot more money, and they're using that money effectively in the political space. And we saw just alone in this last political cycle, in this last election, that the crypto industry writ large accounted for 50% of all super PAC money, which is a hugely incredible number. Previous to that, it was like the Koch brothers. For those that are familiar with U.S. politics, the Koch brothers are infamous for spending a lot of money in politics. It was more money than oil and gas. It was more money than the military. So it's a massive amount of money being spent. And it was so much money spent in one cycle that we're number 2 going back 10 years now. So in a very short period of time, crypto, Bitcoin, digital asset folks will be the number 1 political spenders in this entire country, dating back 10 years. And that's a huge achievement considering that just that not that long ago, we weren't really spending any money at all. And to be honest, I always try to tell people I'm not a big money in politics guy. Like I don't think we should have all this money in politics, but at the same time, this is where we are, and this is how we have to operate in order for us to be successful, in order for us to make sure that people are going to listen. So that's a big part of it. The vote's a big part of it. The money's a big part of it. The winning is a big part of it, because you have a lot of candidates who won their elections because of their Bitcoin position. And you have anti-Bitcoin people who lost their seats because they were anti-Bitcoin. There's no better case of this than Sherrod Brown. Sherrod Brown is the chair of Senate Banking. He was at the pinnacle, essentially at the pinnacle of his career, and he lost his seat because of his opposition to Bitcoin. So that type of outcome, I think, sends shivers down the spines of politicians. Listen, politicians, these people are smart. They know what's going on, and they're going to react when they see things like that happen. Even if they don't like Bitcoin, I think they're going to think twice now before they try to make some sort of political attack on Bitcoin in the future.
Exactly. I mean, honestly, it would just be stupid to be anti-Bitcoin now, because there's nothing to win, right? There are not many voters that are really, actively against Bitcoin, but there are so many voters and so many donators that are very pro-Bitcoin. So it just does make absolute rational sense as a politician to be on this train, right?
100%. And it's going to just get bigger, and the train is getting bigger and moving faster.
Yeah, exactly. So but do you think that also, like, states, I mean, you're talking to probably dozens of states or like a lot of states in the US, and even other governments like the Swiss government here and others. Like, do you think they actually understand Bitcoin and the values behind it and the problems it can solve? Like, do you actually think that some of them are in favor of using Bitcoin as a treasury for building long-term wealth for a state or a country, maybe to solve the debt problem? Are they really thinking about Austrian economics and stuff like that? Or is it just about money and voters?
I mean, it's all the above, but we certainly do have lawmakers now, and I know for certain, that we have lawmakers who understand Bitcoin. There are lawmakers who are Bitcoiners, right? I said earlier there was that guy who got elected, and the first bill he wants to introduce is a strategic Bitcoin reserve bill, right? So he clearly is very pro Bitcoin and understands Bitcoin, and more lawmakers are either becoming Bitcoiners or are Bitcoiners getting elected to office. So you'll see a massive increase, in my opinion, over the next 10 years of lawmakers at the state level, at the federal level, who understand this technology and are interested in going to war and battles to go battle for it, right? It's just the same thing as, like, I got a friend who's really into healthcare. That's his big area that he focuses on legislatively. And, he spends a lot of time in that arena. He gets a lot of support from that industry. He gets a lot of money for his campaign. He gets a lot of votes for his campaign. So it's the same thing is going to happen in the Bitcoin space. You're going to have a large amount of people all the time who are always willing to spend money and vote for folks that are very pro Bitcoin.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's it's probably also a generational thing, no? Like, more kind of millennials or just a bit younger generations that understand, like, digital native asset and the internet and just what's going on. They're probably more open to also understand Bitcoin, are getting into power in companies, but also in politics. So could it be a generational thing as well, or is it just the adoption of Bitcoin?
Yeah. I mean, of course. I mean, it's any new technology, it's going to be generational. But we do have a lot of folks that you wouldn't assume, based on their age, that are very pro Bitcoin. That's something that I've seen across the space. Because at the end of the day, Bitcoin strikes at the heart of money, less on tech. I think it is more appealing to folks that might be from an older generation, who care about balancing the budget, who care about fiscal responsibility, who care about sound money and making sure that we protect ourselves from inflation. So Bitcoin is very appealing to folks across the age gap, so to speak.
Hey everyone, this is Joel from Relai, and I'm here today to tell you about Relai Private. It's our exclusive service for private clients, small offices, small to mid-sized businesses, or just anyone looking to stack more sats with a higher volume. As a Relai Private client, you'll have access to a dedicated account manager, a team, and obviously a white glove service to help you with your Bitcoin needs. You also get personalized 24/7 access to our team, and you are in it for the special selection of reports and data we are sending to our Relai Private clients. If that sounds like something you or someone you know should like, send them to relay.app/private or click the link in the description below.
So how big can this become? I mean, for example, Michael Saylor is now like one of the first that is using Bitcoin as a corporate treasury asset. Now more are coming. The same will happen. I mean, Bukele was the first that used it at state level. More are coming. So how big can this become? Like, have you wrapped your mind around this somehow? How do you articulate how big is this becoming if all the nations and all the corporations, or most of them in the world, are starting to adopt Bitcoin as a like treasury asset?
Well, I mean, I think that's where we're going. I think we're headed towards a world where more and more states, more and more governments, and more corporations use Bitcoin as a treasury asset to protect their purchasing power far into the future. And I think the sky's the limit. I think we're at the very beginning of a lot of these things. And you're going to see a lot more lawmakers and a lot more corporate executives start pulling the trigger. I think Rumble just announced that they made Bitcoin their treasury asset. They publicly showed it, and of course, their stock of the stock of the company is going up because of these efforts. So I think smart folks, people who are willing to take. I mean, listen, I say take a little bit of a risk, but it's really not that risky anymore. Like Bitcoin has been de-risked. We've won the war. The anti-Bitcoin army is gone. They've been disbanded. Maybe one day they'll regroup and come back for a fight, but they're not going to be coming back anytime soon. And in the meantime, in the next 4 years, you're going to see a massive amount of people adopt Bitcoin. I think we have left the anti-Bitcoin army golden era, and we have entered the pro-Bitcoin army golden era. We are in the new Bitcoin era. Things are going to start changing pretty dramatically politically. Also, I think you're going to see a lot more governments push to adopt the technology on a deeper level. We are in talks not only with governments here in the United States at the state level, federal level, but also across the world at the international level as well.
Yeah, well said. I mean, the critics are basically also becoming friendly with it. I mean, China even has lifted or is in talks of lifting the ban. I'm not sure. I saw different headlines about this, but also it seems that China is kind of becoming more pro, and Russia as well. And then smaller countries like Morocco just lifted their ban. There was some single nations that still had an actual official Bitcoin like ban. But they are lifting it, and because they start realizing probably that it can only be positive for them if they are early adopters.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Do you have any insights on like the especially China would be interesting for me. I don't think you're kind of actively in talks with them, right? But do you have any insights on what's going on there, and what could be the rationale for such a big geopolitical force of adopting Bitcoin?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I have deep insights, but certainly I've been talking to folks who have said that the folks that are in charge over in China, Xi Jinping and his friends, certainly took notice when Donald Trump came out and announced that he would be launching a strategic Bitcoin reserve there in the United States, or that he would push for one. That turned heads across the world. And I think also this idea that Bitcoin is winning politically has been turning a lot of heads, and you combine that with the price, and you can see why countries that might have previously been opposed to Bitcoin are now racing to adopt the technology.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of U.S. strategic Bitcoin reserve, I mean, that's like as big as it gets, right? If the biggest superpower in the world is starting to adopt Bitcoin as a treasury. But what would be the what would be the process? I think you're one of these folks that really know what needs to happen for Bitcoin adoption at state level. So, for example, Pennsylvania, I think, passed a bill that they're ready to put 10% of their treasuries into Bitcoin, but then also at like federal level. What needs to happen for the U.S. actually starting to buy like tens of thousands of Bitcoin for their balance sheet?
So, yeah, Pennsylvania introduced the bill, hasn't passed into law yet. They did also introduce our Bitcoin rights bill, which did pass the House, still needs to pass the Senate and be signed into law by the governor. But lots of great progress there. And that also resulted in a lot of other lawmakers reaching out to us because they were interested in introducing our model legislation. And we also, for our international folks, we're crafting a piece of educational material which will help them create a Bitcoin strategic reserve in their own country, because laws are different everywhere you go. Political systems are different everywhere you go. And so the way that those are designed is going to be different. So we're going to come up with the first principles on how to develop a strategic Bitcoin reserve for nation states. We'll be having that out shortly, working on it diligently, very excited to get it out there. But the process of how to buy Bitcoin is going to be different for different places. Some it will be through taking Bitcoin that was collected through confiscation. The U.S. Marshals still has 210,000 Bitcoin that it's sitting on today. We want to take those 210,000 Bitcoin and we want to move them into the U.S. Treasury. Some countries will buy Bitcoin directly from the spot market. And then also some countries will accept Bitcoin via taxation. So like if you pay your taxes in Bitcoin, they'll just keep the Bitcoin and hold it on the balance sheet. So those are the three, I think, most obvious ways that you can acquire Bitcoin.
Even mining. There have been talks and rumors about nation states. Like, I think Bhutan is actually officially mining. I think there are probably more nations that are mining in the backyard without it being official.
That's what I'm hearing. That's already happening. But confirm Bhutan is, and yeah, definitely. I think you're right. That's a great fourth way, and we talk about it all the time at Satoshi Action, a fourth way for nation states or states themselves to be able to acquire Bitcoin. I think about it less so here in the U.S. It's less likely that would be an approach that the U.S. would take. You'd probably be more of a public-private partnership. But in foreign governments across the world, absolutely, there will be countries who control their energy markets. In the U.S., it's really simple because we have a very open energy market. It's a wild, wild west of energy in the U.S. Most parts of the world, when you go there, the energy industry is wholly owned and controlled by the government or by a royal family or by the crown. So certainly that's going to be a great way for some of these countries that wholly own their energy sector to be able to participate in Bitcoin mining in order to acquire Bitcoin.
El Salvador is also, I think, mining with volcano energy, right? And there's so much stranded energy. I think in Canada, for example, they have like so much stranded energy, is like sustainable energy that they can just not use because it's so remote and like waterfalls and areas where there's no one lives there, so it doesn't make sense to produce the energy and use it. But if you can put miners there, come on, you can just make Bitcoin with sustainable energy, and you can put it on your balance sheet. You can be competitively, it's competitive advantage for you. And
that's right.
It's interesting for me that this doesn't really happen yet at scale. But so in January, Trump will get into office, right? What do you expect? Like, what are the steps that will follow, and how long will it take until maybe there's a public announcement, or just until the US is maybe going to start this strategic Bitcoin reserve?
So it just depends on how it starts, because we're in a race. We at Satoshi Action have challenged in a friendly way our federal folks to say, hey, we're going to beat you to this. We're going to pass these strategic Bitcoin reserve policies into law at the state level before you get it done at the federal level. And, the only way that they can get it done before us is if, Trump does some sort of executive order in the first, 100 days. He might have to do it in the first week if he wants to beat us, because we're going to get it done at the state level. We may even pass it in multiple states before he ever has a shot to truly get it done, unless, of course, he does an executive order. But if not, then it's going to rely on the legislative process, which could take some time. It could take anywhere from 6 months to a year to 2 years.
Oh, okay. And so why would the federal level be interested in beating the states to it?
It's sort of a friendly competition. I think anybody wants to get Bitcoin before the next guy. So, okay. We're always trying to buy Bitcoin before others buy Bitcoin is the goal in Bitcoin.
So it's basically game theory playing out.
That's right, 100%.
So if you look internationally and the governments that you are in touch with, who do you think are the candidates that could be next, or that are also very actively in this race trying to beat the other nation states?
There's none that I can speak of publicly. So anybody that we think might be next is someone we're probably chatting with. So we can't share details on which folks that we're chatting with and how far those conversations are along.
Yeah, but you do share like small snippets on X mainly. So I
Yeah.
definitely recommend anyone who's not familiar with the matter to follow Dennis Porter on X, because it makes me feel so bullish whenever you post these things about, I just got off the phone with this government and this politician and this presidential candidate, etc., and they're all interested in putting Bitcoin as a strategic reserve on their balance sheet, etc. I'm like, fuck, what's going to happen the next couple of years? It's going to be crazy.
Yeah. Well, we got to take advantage of the momentum too, because it's not going to be sunshine and rainbows for the rest of our lives.
Right.
There will be ups and downs, but right now we have incredible momentum and opportunity to be able to move Bitcoin forward because of where we are and the winning that we're taking place. We need to just keep pushing for those wins and pursue the absolute best strategy possible to accomplish it. That's why we tell people, please, if you're looking towards supporting someone financially, we are a nonprofit at Satoshi Action. We are launching a $500,000 fundraising goal for the end of the year. And we're going to have match donations for all 500,000 of that. So for every dollar that someone gives, they can up to $250,000. They can double that donation and have double the impact with the work that we're doing.
Wow, 100%. That's a great cause to be part of. So you personally, Dennis, why are you interested in working with politicians and governments on that? I mean, you could have chosen, you could help retail investors get educated and use Bitcoin or companies, but you decided to form this whole non-profit and give everything you have all the time and probably a lot of money to this cause of onboarding nations and states to Bitcoin. Why is that? Where does that personal motivation come from?
I mean, for me, it was started all from realizing that we were in a bad place and that we needed to have someone get in the fight. And I was pushing others to get in the fight. I thought it was important that we start pushing back and start scoring wins for Bitcoin instead of just playing defense all the time. And eventually I found my two co-founders and we got to work and we proved our approach. We found a great policy director and we were able to prove our strategy and get to work producing results for Bitcoin. So it's derived from a place of, a little bit of fear of my own, but also fear for other folks in this country who were worried about where the direction of the country was headed on Bitcoin. And I'm also an eternal optimist. So I thought, I can jump into this game and I can make an impact and I can help change the direction of where we're headed and help make the USA one of the best places in the world to be a Bitcoiner and a Bitcoin miner.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's going to be beneficial to anyone in the country and anyone in the world. Probably. Yeah. So last question I always ask my guests is, and you don't have to answer, but many of them do actually. So you were into Bitcoin for a long time. How much of your total wealth and percentage-wise do you hold in Bitcoin?
I don't tell people the exact amount, but I'm certainly very, very, very much invested into Bitcoin. That's for sure. I wouldn't be fighting this hard for it for nothing. I mean, the nonprofit work doesn't pay a lot. Just to be clear, I could be making a lot more money doing something totally different, but I don't because I want to fight for Bitcoin and I want to fight for the country to make it the best place we can.
That's so nice that actually a lot of companies and foundations just basically work on Bitcoin while holding Bitcoin, because if they do value adding activities for the Bitcoin ecosystem, then Bitcoin will grow. And so that's kind of pretty much what they all they need to finance their whole efforts and their lives and get make a good bang for the buck on it. That's kind of also a new thing. In fiat world, you always need to make new money. And in Bitcoin, maybe you could just sit on Bitcoin and work on it to make it more valuable, and that's gonna be enough for making a good living.
That's right, absolutely.
That's awesome.
That's a great part. That's a great part of the system.
Thank you so much, Dennis, for taking the time. I know you have a hard stop. You have a lot of important meetings probably still today. Thank you very much for coming on. I'm really looking forward to speak in front of the Swiss Parliament tomorrow together with you.
Yeah, it's going to be great. And thank you for having me on, Julian. I appreciate you. And please let me know if there's anything I can do to help you there in your country, or if anybody else is listening in, if you're looking for a group to help you in yours. We're actively seeking out groups to be able to help them be effective in their own countries for Bitcoin.
Thank you, buddy. Keep rocking. Cheers.
Hey, this is Joel again from the Relai team. First of all, thanks for listening or watching to the podcast. We really appreciate your help here. If you want to actually help us out further, you can leave us a 5-star review in the Apple Podcasting Store, in Spotify, on YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts, because this way we'll actually reach more people with this fantastic content. And I'll see you in the next one.